So other people will keep coming in, but maybe I'll just go ahead and we'll get started. So in lots of ways, this is like a mini midwinter gathering when people would get together and share a meal and share stories and share teachings and have that time just to be able to listen and to learn and to share their thoughts and have that close time together that helps to rejuvenate us and help us to get through the rest of the winter. So in some ways, this is a mini midwinter, and some of the people that are speaking will be talking more about what that means and what the Longhouse means. And I just want to welcome everybody here and to acknowledge that this is being hosted by Abijiwala and Women of First Light with support from the Catherine Donnelly Foundation, which we truly appreciate. And that this organization is a Wabanaki women's organization and women-led, which doesn't mean exclusively feminine, but coming from that way of being. So with that, I'm going to pass it to Ron to do the opening prayer. And then the first part will be due as like a talking circle where the speakers are talking. And then after that, it'll go to more of a session, more of a discussion, and people can ask questions and such. So just want to welcome you all and thank you. And it's good to be with you on this very cold winter night. And with that, I'll pass it over to Ron and we'll let everyone introduce themselves, Ron, when you're starting. Olalan.
Wait, Lewinish, Gadui, Tamka, Yolpa, Chizagam Nilcho, Lusto Gawi, Edley, but it was all teated. You'd Lastogok, Spazagas at Pisazam and Lewis, Naga Gaka Gos Wagodam, Naga Malsam Wagodam. Gadui Damka. The Bachi Mag, Genzoswag, Najabal Gilwa, Najibwigawam, Makwalti, Najabal Naji, Muslimuinen, Gaki Minen, Wijoka Minen, Edalusiag, you'd go walk with Macway out, what Elwigoltiag, Chibanuk, the Gazonesnug, Uskiasnug, Lartig Westnug. Leeuwenchuk voor Bouwse Waganawa, Gizalmopa. Could we Archoya and Nigwis with Skik to make? Nagap Sede Wayas, season, the cheese in the mass with the zip seasic. Nagap Sede Wajawal, Zamagwanal, Zebul, Zibu Seasel, Uspam, Zobagil. Naga Stajikol, Naga Edligak. Waganal, Naga Pizonal, Leemanchuk, Pabausa Wagan, Wanagilawa, Gizalmopa. With the skijo, skik the mig, the water the Ebasi Lumkik, nit the attic, nid Gulwak, nid Scud, the Magwana Scud, Nagap Side Tipquan, Gulwak Tipquan. Water the Lumkik. Naga Gadui Lodgewalta Moag, Naga the Badgy Mug, Wat Spumkig, Edley Wiggle Teeded, Nigwis with Nibau said, Mosums with Wespadau said. Meetux with Muzigis, Naga Missizig, Naga Nahazizig, Pesazimic. Najabal Yud Hamaka, which Kwabazik and Nagilawa, Najagaki Minia, Gaki Minen, you'd go walk by Mousawagan, you'd at the good go walk, Macway goat. Did age. Greetings. I use my Walustagowe Wagan, my holistic language to greet you. First and foremost, I want to introduce myself. My traditional name is Spazagazit Pisazim, which is Morning Star Burning. And I represent the Crow clan and the Wolf clan. The Crow clan through my mother's side, the Wolf clan through my father's. And I'm the traditional Grand Chief of the Wolastoq people, and as the miigam'agan, the Malazit. I was lifted as the Grand Chief in 2016 by Wolastoqwe grandmothers who held a traditional government, traditional ceremony to lift me as the Grand Chief. I send my gratitudes to all life. First and foremost, I ask the ancestors who dwell in the east, the south, the west, and the wise ones from the north to come be with us tonight, to join us, to guide us, to teach us, to direct us, to heal us as we walk this good wed road. And I asked our greatest mother, the earth, who provides all life, that what we need for us, that sustains life. I thanked her for all the animals, the four-leggeds, the swimmers, the creepy crawlers, the flyers. And I asked them to come and join us tonight. And I thanked all the trees in the forest, the medicines and the food that grow, and as well as the mountains, the valleys, and all the water systems, the brooks, the rivers, the streams, the marshes, the oceans, and the lakes. And I asked them to come join us tonight. And I was thankful for their life. And also I asked the above world, where our grandfather sun and our grandmother moon dwells, and our brothers and sisters, the stars, and our father sky, to come down, also to guide and direct us tonight. And here in the center where we are at Wabanaki, and the place of the people of the dawn, here in Wabanaki homeland, in the center, I just asked you all to be part of this session tonight, and that we may be guided and directed by the ancestors who dwell around us. And so that was my opening gratitude prayer to all of creation. So to that, I will I'll be silent for now and pass it along. Yeah, oh, and what I said at the end, nidlage. In our language, that means let that be so. Let that be so. Let that be so. Let that be so. Tahoe.
Thank you, Ron. So we're going to pass it to miigam'agan to speak about the midwinter gathering and some of the Longhouse teachings, and we'll come back to Ron to share teachings a little later.
Walali and Ron, hi. Walali Dandilbe Dayo, Gelukai, Mimajuahan, Kukunmuk, am Satgedu, Nenmuk, Glusuahan, hi, Vijay Wetahaya, Glusuahan Minau, Kidnu Mahamigyo. So, just to acknowledge gratitude to the source of life, the natural world, our sacred mother, for sustaining us. So, and thanking all of you for joining us this evening, and that the sharing circle, the sharing tonight of echoing the voices that's been, we've been listening. Many of us have been on this road for a long time, and so we've been listening to the elders before, and the elders that are among us, which is the children, the grandchildren, the young people. And I feel like tonight what we share, and it's a tremendous honor to have this space to do that. What we share tonight is nothing new to many of us, but it's just confirming and that it's in us all. So I always draw back, for me, the language, and I want to share maybe who I want to acknowledge who my clan is Jagechk, Ancestorial. I was born in a community called Skinwabadich, and I feel like this is where I don't feel like this is where my teachers are when we talk about our homeland and our sacred mother, the tree life, the water life, which is where my clan is from, the plant life, all the four-leggeds and all are the first teachers, the same teachers that were the original teachers of our ancestors. And those were the ones that is where our clans come from. So my area that I want to talk about is the Longhouse, and our understanding about the Longhouse. Just one perspective of it, because it requires all of us to experience that, the Longhouse, and for us to share that experience of it. So tonight, our talking circle is called Wabanaki Knowledge Holders Session. So we all know what Wabanaki means, people of first light, and the holders, Genamug. Genamug is something that we hold as our responsibility. And so knowledge in our language would be also we would translate that to Gejidug. And it's Gejidug is about all of us. We know this knowledge and we come together just as life is meant to be, how we weave ourselves together. And it takes not one or two people to create language, culture, and it takes a whole society and generations of changes, and the way our languages formed itself. It's very verb-based, and our each word in our language always has multi-dimensional narratives of understanding. So so when I look at, here's how my mind works. So I look at the word knowledge and what does that mean for us? And so it's Gejidug, and it's talking about the understanding of that deep sacred knowledge. And so we're also in the time of Bunamujuwegusk, Edlilajultik Uchit Abik Najit, the one who will return. So Bunamujuwegus is what is understood as month of January, and Bunamuj is talking about I think it's a Tommy cod, or the return of the Tommy cod, and that's they've arrived, and so we have a ceremony and they sustain us. So it's honoring of that time, of that moon, of the return of the Tommy cod, Bunamujuwegusk. And Abich Najit is now getting ready for the midwinter, and midwinter is different across the country. As I was saying earlier in our discussions, our relatives, the Anishinaabe, are already having their midwinter ceremonies, and our relatives, the Mohawks, are, I think, preparing or already in have the fires lit. And here in the east, further east, it's around the new moon or the beginning of Wabinaki, which is February. And how all that is measured, because we are guided by the Depkik, the night. And so why the night? Because we look to our ancestors, we look to our extended family, the cosmos. And so we light the fire here in the furthest east around that time in the new moon in February, the coldest time of the year. And so it's the time when the sun goes down, and about an hour after the sun goes down, we look up, we're following the seven sisters, the Pleiades. So you pay attention, and each time when the sun goes up, you go out. It might be halfway to the middle, and then so once they arrive an hour after sunset, in the middle, right straight above us, is our marker of the lighting of the fire. So and that's Haudenosaunee is how the Longhouse people have been, and so we work with the return of that energy, Abichinajit, if I'm pronouncing, Abugnajit, I'm sorry. So I'm just kind of marking that how important it is to be guided by who we're following, who our ancestors were following, and how they responded to our extended family and to the animal world. So the midwinter was celebrated. It's significant, like when we say like 10 days, 10 days is a bit different understanding for us than when we say 10. It's not we need to understand what that is saying too. When we speak in our languages, like Neut Dabusis, we're talking about a deeper level of understanding about not just an elementary linear way of looking at life, where in 1, 2, 3. So when we say Neut Dabusis, all that has those similar stages of life. Each day, each night is very significant to what we're supposed to be focusing on and looking to. Neut is to that oneness. As some elders would say, the first tobacco, the first everything is to the creator. So that's that oneness. Dabu, too, it's the understanding about that partnerships, because we don't have equal in our language, but about partnerships. And that means responsibilities, what responsibilities. So, and then ceased, number 3, that ceased is the energy that kind of seals the deal. Energy of that whole, like the 3 is creating that tripod in our lodges or so on. But I don't want to go into too much about that, but I want to keep emphasizing how important it is to understand how the language was colonized, and how important it is to begin to indigenize or look at our language, heal our language, and understand that it's multi-dimensional, and that I think Western science is finally adapting or creating new language to be able to explain Indigenous knowledge. So I don't want to, I know we have a very limited time, but I just want to emphasize my part about from my about that as the foundational piece to what we're talking about when we're here to talk about Wabanaki knowledge. We almost have to flip everything upside down that we had been raised and we've been conditioned to think. And so to reevaluate all the negative words that's been in all languages, you know, so, and so midwinter is to honor the time of, when we look at it, it's always through understanding the whole language is very feminine based. So a lot of the whole narrative of our language is through a woman's body. Our whole worldview is, when we speak, is working with the analogy of a woman's life stages. So when we look at midwinter, when we look at spring, we're talking about the sacred mother now is in gestation. So midwinter, she's now in halfway in gestation. And in the next 2 months is silk at spring, and that's the great opening. We've just coming out of Gesik, the winter solstice. So the seed has opened, and so all, like, we're in that past the 3 months of gestation. So if you look at it all like that, I'm just gonna probably close now, but I just want us to begin to look at life ways, how through observing how a woman is and all her bodily functions. Because keep in mind, all our ceremonies is mimicking the creator, the sweat lodge, the moon lodge, and so on. So we're in that time of honoring the great life. And she's the only doorway to Eulalia.
Thank you. So we're going to pass it to Jane now.
Goodness, sorry about that. I was trying to get my mic. Gwe, Bojo Ani, Tanze, Unsego, Skanangoa. Ninskamiji Nachtel, Luidijik, Amsquas, Wachwabinyahagewisk, Nchijamij, Wade Desibo, illegally Wabe, Mestebegejik, and to the Mikjik, Ani Mi'gam'agan Kunumagi Leawi. So greetings from my heart to yours. My traditional name is First Dawn Woman. I have the spirit of the gray horse, a white buffalo warrior, and I belong to Turtle Clan, the Mi'kmaq people. Well, like Ron said, Turtle and Fox. The Fox Clan is my father's, Turtles from my mother. And I am a Mi'kmaq woman from the traditional lands of Wapna'kikewi'skwaq that are now sometimes called Cape Breton. And I am a citizen of the Wabanaki Confederacy. I was thinking that as Mi'kmaq was talking and Ron, like, what topic do I want to discuss and what do I want to talk about? But I think what I wanted to talk about is the importance of ceremonies within our culture and how we have ceremonies from way before birth. It's like that. It's to say that we have ceremonies from long before the womb to long after the tomb. It covers every aspect of our lives, and they are important, and they ground us. And one of the ceremonies we often talk about, and many of you have seen or have taken part in, would be pipe ceremonies, sweat lodge ceremonies. And then there are other ones that are specific to age or specific to the time in that things have to be done, like miigam'agan was saying, like the midwinter. And then we also have the winter solstice. And in our language, we call that nibialasidimok, which people have taken and used it for Christmas, but it's really not Christmas. It means it's a winter solstice, and what it actually means, it's an all-night vigil, that we're up all night and we pray. And we do a pipe ceremony at daybreak, at dawn, to welcome the sun coming back, and the longer days coming back, and gratitude. And most of our ceremonies are always about gratitude. When we talk about midwinter too, it's again about gratitude. And miigam'agan was saying about abuganajid. One of the things that we do with abuganajid always we also follow that Gregorian calendar now. So on January 31st in the evening, just before midnight, we place food out onto the land. And it's our people call it abuganajid desimut. And just one second. Oh, I don't know.
Yes.
So thank you. I just want to ask if you could turn off your mic, because it's kind of, anyway, sorry. Your mic's back on. Okay, we'll try again. Now I lost my train of thought. Anyway, so it's always about gratitude. And so a lot of times we say we put that food out on January 31st, and we call it abuganajid desimut. And the purpose for that is to be grateful. One of the things our people always did, that food was always shared. Food was never hoarded. Food was never, it wasn't kept just for the family. It was always shared with other people. It was always shared with our own people. It was always shared with the people who came over, settlers and anyone who came. And you'll find that in many Mi'kmaq homes. But anyway, the thing is, the food is put out, and it's to thank Creator for bringing us halfway through that winter, that we're already halfway through, and with Creator's blessing and kindness, that we'll make it through the other half. And that's what that whole process is taking that food out. We put the food out, I put it out on a plate, and I smudge it and I pray over it. And then we put it outside. And we just put it down, put it on the ground and leave it there. Now, if the animals eat it, that's okay. It is an offering, food offering that has been made for that month or that year, or for the winter, for that winter months. We also have many other ceremonies but that one is an important one right now at this time of year. And we also have many other ceremonies, like miigam'agan was talking about. We have the summer solstice and the winter solstice. And one of the big things about the winter solstice too, and many of our I think this in the summer one is we have a ceremony called the Forgiveness Ceremony. And it's about relationships. Our culture is about relationships. Like miigam'agan said, it's not a hierarchy, but it's about relationships. It's about building those relationships and sitting together like we are now in a circle. Nobody is above anybody else. Nobody is beneath anybody. And that we sit together as equals, speaking to each other, and always remembering that, that we're all children of Creator. We all work together, and we all have gifts. And that's a big thing, is that we need to remember we all have gifts to give to the world. There's a reason. That's why we came here. We have gifts that we need to share with the world as individuals, as human beings, as races, as different religions, as different countries. We all have that, and it's up to us it's like those pieces of the puzzle. It's up to us to put that puzzle together to make a complete picture. And that's how we have to work together. And it's about loving each other, caring for each other. And the Mi'kmaq honor song, it says, in the words that when they're translated, it says, he talks about being like in the manner that Creator intended when he put us here on the earth, is to love one another, to be kind to each other, to take care of each other. And that's what our goal is, always to be kind. And I know I'm taking up too much time. Because I know we have several other speakers, but there's a quote that I really like, and I kind of wanted to share it with you. And it's a quote by Chief Orville Looking Horse. It's probably one of my favorite quotes. And he says, each of us is put here in this time and this place to personally decide the future of humankind. Do you think you were put here for something less? And that's from Chief Orville Looking Horse at the Lakota. So thank you. Walalio, Miigwech, and Enyawa. Thank you.
So we'll pass it now to Cathy Martin, if you're back on here, Cathy.
I am. I'm here. I'm in celebration because I have fiber up, and Jane really loves when I say that. I have fiber up as of 3 hours ago. We finally have it. So hopefully this works. I love bringing the drum with me because it helps me to figure out what it is I'm supposed to say, because I never really know. But it also represents the heartbeat of our Mother Earth, and it represents the heartbeat of our mother. And this is the language that we heard for up to 9 months, a little more, sometimes a little less. And it's a language that we all understand all over, all those that have a heartbeat that know this. So one of the things that I've always been aware of and taught is that when you don't know, not just when you don't know what to say, but when you're a little nervous or just when you need just to kind of ground yourself, that you drum, because it brings you back to that place that a lot of us wonder, why does that sound familiar to me? I don't know, but makes me go back somewhere. And it goes back to the place that we came from when we were nurtured by our mother. We were safe in that sacred water of her womb. We lived in that womb because that's where we begin our life. And this is our first language. And if we all do what I was always taught, is to speak from your heart, then you will be speaking the truth. And it's your mother's first language she gave us, and that's the truth, her language. So the drum represents the heartbeat of Mother Earth as well. And when we drum, some of us, we drum not for performing. We drum because it's our gift to share and a gift to use in a way that will help people. And sometimes they say when you drum, it's double praying. I need double prayers all the time. So today is a really beautiful day. It was sunny, and I started getting all these calls from my friends and people that I really honor and respect, because they heard that there was this big development going on down at Peggy's Cove, and there is. It's a new look for Peggy's Cove. They're building roads and a big, huge look-off deck and buildings, and it's really changed. But the concern is that coming from mostly the miigam'agan is that we have several sweetgrass patches there, and sweetgrass is one of our 4 sacred medicines, as many of you know. And it's considered the hair of Mother Earth, and it looks like hair when you know what sweetgrass is, because it blows like hair amongst the rest of the grasses. And then we braid it, and so it also looks like her hair that way. So I was just so happy that people just wrote right away. They weren't angry. They were just saying, what do we do to save this? One of the very few patches of sweetgrass that's left is, in these around us, and we have to keep them. So I think it's a sacred thing. I know it is. Peggy's Cove, it's maybe one of the biggest tourist places of all time, but it's also a sacred place. And we were talking about it earlier before we came on to the show here with this circle. And we all, many of us shared how sacred it is when you go there. You feel it, you know it. It's a place where, 200 and something souls left the planet, and they crashed the Swiss Air, and it's right near that place as well. And that's sacred. It's the ocean there is their burial ground. So that's just been on my mind, and how happy I am that during this time of truth and reconciliation, when we're not, reconciliation times is not to fix what is wrong and come in and take care of us and decide what's best for us. It's a time to work on your own world and find out how you, as friends of the miigam'agan, of the Indigenous people in this country, how you can support and hold us up while we do our work. And also that those settlers, those friends of ours, it's time that you do some of the work as well, so that we can keep going with having these talks and talk about all the lovely things we talk about. But it's time that things like protecting the sweetgrass, it should be helped and understood. You don't have to believe in it, but just respect that it's very important to us. And that's about it. I'm going to quickly give you a little quick thank you. It's not the ending, it's just like a commercial break, you know, it's trying to get you back together. Yo ya he hey ya he yo. Thank you, Great Spirit, for thunder and sky. Thanks for the seasons that are part of life. Thanks for the daytime and for the night. Thanks for the way of our life. Yo ya he ya he yo ya he 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 ya he Daho.
Malal and Cathy.
Mhm.
So if Alma is ready, I'd like to pass it to Alma and ask that she introduce herself first. And then after Alma, we'll see if Ron wants to share some thoughts with us.
Well, I mentioned to you earlier that I was not prepared to speak at this time because I just recently received my link to notify me that this meeting was actually happening. I didn't know about it. So I don't know what to talk about. I want to thank Catherine and Jane, though, for their lovely teachings. And it would be nice if I would have been able to think about what I wanted to say a little bit.
Well, Alma,
And maybe later I could say something at the end.
Alma,
Yes.
it's all we are doing is what we do when we come together. We just share some of our thoughts. It's
Mhm.
nothing to prepare for. It's just, you know, we're just gathering and we're sharing because a lot of people wish they could be with you. And
Yeah.
so this is what we're doing. We're offering that opportunity for all these beautiful people. I've looked at the list. There's some great people here.
Oh, I know. I've been looking at the list here
Yeah.
to see who's all on here. Well,
I don't think we understand enough about the importance of Alma Brooks.
well, I know what you always do this to people when we get together with you, Cathy. You won't let anybody off the hook at all.
I try to raise
So-
you up, Alma. I raise you up and acknowledge all of the good work that you've done with us and helped
Oh,
us.
I know. Well, I'll share then. I'll share a little bit. What I think. Right now, I'm doing a lot of work around the resiliency centers and trying to help to develop the programs for healing programs. And there's something that I was very, very interested in when I heard about it, because it's a new science now that's being talked about, and both Western science as well as Indigenous practitioners are interested in looking into this new thing. I think the reason why it's so interesting is because science now is beginning to recognize quantum physics. Before, under the Darwin's theory, science, if you couldn't see it or measure it or weigh it or hear it or smell it, it didn't exist. That was their theory. So, but our ancestors always knew that all things in life are connected. And I was surprised to learn that science didn't understand that That wasn't a part of their thinking at all, and I couldn't believe it. But I found that out recently. So now they're starting to look at it much more the way our ancestors did. And one of the things that I learned was that the human being, each one of us human beings, we have 50 trillion little tiny cells that make up our body. And these little cells are organized themselves in communities. So our skin is one community of cells, our hair is one community, our eyes, each one of the parts of our body are communities of cells. And our heart is made up of specialized cells. And they said that they found that these tiny little cells, each one has a brain, and each one has a memory. So our memory is not just in our head. Our entire body, we have memory. So just thinking about that it's mind-bending, really. So they know now too that we as women especially, but also men, we transmit our ancestral memory from one generation to the next. And that ancestral memory is held into those cells, those little tiny cells that have a brain. Isn't that amazing? When you think about that, that's amazing. But the problem is we also transmit trauma and hurt and pain. We also transmit that from one generation to another. And I was thinking, as I'm studying this, I'm looking into it and I'm studying it. And I think to myself, well, how far back does that ancestral memory go, I wonder? These are some of the questions that pop up in my head, And I'm learning that each one of us are programmed. Everyone is programmed. And right from the third trimester in our mother's womb, everything that she hears and does and says and learns, everything is programmed. It influences our development in the womb, right in the womb, right until the age of 7 years old. And at the age of 7 years old, we begin to then use our conscious mind. We develop a conscious mind and a subconscious mind. And they said that we're not driven by our conscious mind at all. Unconsciously, the driving force is our subconscious mind. And so from through the third trimester to the age of 7 years old, everything that's downloaded, everything comes from our family, our community, our nation, our environment, everything that's like, we're like a computer. We're like a computer, blank slate. And everything is that data that's downloaded. And that's what sets the stage for our life. So that's programming. But because now they're beginning to understand how that epigenetic transmission happens, we can reprogram ourselves. Because many of us grow up in very traumatic conditions. Sometimes right from the womb. We all know that. I'm not telling anybody anything they don't know. They already know that. We know, through no fault of our own, colonization has left a bitter pill. It has left a not a good legacy when it comes to Indigenous people. And so a lot of the memory we still have and still carry, and we still transmit that, you know, to the generations. It's possible to heal ourselves now. It's possible to heal ourselves from everything, including cancer, including diseases that, but we have to reprogram ourselves. So it's very important what we believe, and it's very, very important what we teach our children to believe about themselves. You know, so many children, so many grow up with not liking themselves very much because of the things that they've been told, you know, all their lives, most of their lives. They've been told things that didn't give them what they needed to be well and healthy and loving themselves. So that was some of the things I've been learning. I'm also reading a book. Like that's what I thought about when I heard Jane's when she read that quote from her author. And I have a favorite author also. My favorite author is Vine Delorier Jr. And I've got every one of his books. And he's a wonderful author. He talks about, in this last book, just before he died, he released another book, and it's called The World We Used to Live In. And in his lifetime, he did research into what the old medicine men, mostly focused on men, although women were just as powerful. But in his research, he focused mostly on the medicine men and the extraordinary feats that they used to be able to do. They could change the weather. They could, you know, they could predict. They could answer questions. They knew where they knew where the animals were when they went to go and hunt, and all of these things. And so he described a lot of the ceremonies that they did. And one of the things he said was he believed that, you know, we probably do possess that capability today. We just don't have the knowledge. We don't have that complete knowledge. And he said that he believes, after reading all this research he did, he believes that we've kind of lost a little bit of that because of Christianity. Because our people didn't believe in a God that was up there somewhere. They believed that God was here on earth in creation itself, and that we were a part of that they believed that you know, the spirit of our ancestors are not that far away. Those that went on the other side are not that far away, and that they were able to communicate with them, sometimes through the vehicles of animals or birds or something in creation. There was sometimes stones. These stones, they could do miracles just with these stones. So you know, I'm very interested in that kind of thing, because we have to bring that back. We have to bring that back. There's no reason why anybody has to pretend or make up a story about spirits. Those spirits are real, but they need us to be listening. We need to be listening and paying attention. One of the ways the old folks, the old people, that he said, was that they observed nature all the time. They were always observing. They would observe the animals, the birds. Not all the birds would be a vehicle, but that particular one would be. and they wanted to know, or they had to know the signs, you know what I mean? So anyway, those are what I've been doing lately in my COVID. You know, we're in red here in Fredericton. We're in the red. We're in the red zone now, and I don't know if that means lockdown, but it's pretty darn near it. So yeah, so that's all I'll share for now. And thank you for Catherine for.
Well, I'm
Oh,
surprised.
you're gonna let everybody talk.
I know. Well, thanks for telling us things that you didn't think you had anything to say.
No.
I was reading the comments, Alma, and so many people are just loving hearing you. You could talk about the man in the moon, and we would be happy with that. Yeah.
You knows I love you.
I love you too. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Alma. I was going to actually say the same thing. For someone who said they had nothing to say, you had some powerful messages. So I'll call you out for lying there. Anyway, no, it was beautiful. Thank you so much. And I just wanted to reiterate a little bit too. You know, I work in healthcare professionally. I'm a nurse, and the stuff that you're talking about is stuff that I'm starting to see in my career. But I've always known, because they're things I learned in ceremony, they're things I learned from elders. You know, and to me, it especially resonates when talking about child and maternal health, because that's what I'm really passionate about. And that you know, that prenatal time when you're talking about that third trimester, you know, those are things we knew. That's stuff I learned growing up, you know, like those are teachings. When you're carrying that baby, you don't consume violent media, you watch what you say, you watch what you think, like everything, because it transmits, right? You're totally like, it's so amazing though. You're right. It's cool to see it being confirmed now by science, being confirmed in Western medicine, that they're like, oh yeah, you guys are right all along. It is really cool. So I'm so happy you talked about that. And someone in the comments too had mentioned, you know, the way things work biologically. And it to me, this is always one of my favorite things, because we do live through our grandmothers, right? We know that we're a matriarchal society. But the way those cells work, you know, the cell, that egg that becomes you, actually exists inside the fetus of your mother, inside of your grandmother. So your grandmother carried that cell that became you know, and that is so powerful. But that's something we always know. We know that we come from our grandmothers. We know that we belong to them. So anyway, I just thank you again. And we're going to go into just going to ask Ron if he has any more teachings to share in kind of to close out the circle aspect. And then from there, we're going to go a little bit more into like a conversation style, popcorn style, let the grandmothers and Ron just share what they need to share and talk about things that that speak out to them. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Still leaving those could we get La West. I'm going to share this what I've been kind of researching and concentrating on this time and place now of COVID, that I had reflecting on wampum. And in our language, Wampum are translated to Wampum Laws. And I was gifted this book by Amanda Myron, that she found at the Wolastoq and Miigam'agan Center up at UNB, and it's wampum records. And it's actually wampum laws that were created back in the late 19th century and recorded by Lewis Mitchell. And then after Lewis Mitchell had recorded it, and this was all in the language at the beginning, in Wolastoq and Miigam'agan and Passamaquoddy, Wabanaki, which is our language. and how our wampum laws unfolded. And I was moved by the word wapap, which derives from the word Wabanaki, or the Wabanaki people, or Wabinaki, which is one person who is from that confederacy of the people of the dawn, and Wabanaki is the homeland of the people of the dawn. And the word squabin, and we have a woman, Sandra Lovelace's daughter. I think it's miigam'agan's, her brother married Squabin, and her name means it is dawn. Dawn has approached. The word chkwa or chkwi or chkuya, it means that that it's coming, that it's coming to this time and space. And wapab is wampum, or a wampum belt. So in our language, wapabi are wampum laws. And our people actually, at one time and place within the Longhouse system and the governance that they ran, followed those wampum laws to the T. And they had recorded wampum. And I am deliberately wearing the quahog shell, where the wampum is made from. And these are wampum beads. And this is the wampum, the small wampum belt that was gifted to me by the grandmothers when they had installed me as the Wapna'kikewi'skwaq Grand Chief. So they had instructed me to carry this when I go and either do ceremony or speak publicly. And I have a few wapabil here, a few wampum belts that I'll talk about in probably a couple minutes. And these wampum laws back then, our confederacy used to meet every 3 years, and they would gather, and they even and eventually went to Ganawage, which was the center fireplace of the confederacies. So they would meet with the Mohawk people, and plus the Ottawa, and the Ottawa was the buffer between the Mohawks and the Wabanaki, and they were the ones that kept the peace between us. And there's so many stories about our people in battle with the Mohawk people, and eventually we created this beautiful wampum law and wampum belt to create this peace with them. And so I just wanted to share some of the language with you that that goes along with wampum and Wabanaki, Chquabin, and the and to be clear, like we always, like what we were taught younger, that wab means white, like wabe yogeg, but really, if you look at the word, it does not reflect on the word white, but it reflects on the word light, whatever brings light to something. And wapab, the apab means rope. So it's like the rope that ties the white or the light together. So this is where that truth comes from. And I was always told by my teacher and good friend, the reason why the white part of the wampum is there, that white portion of the wampum defines truth and transparency and clarity. So that's why we have the white portion of the wampum. And when we talk about the connection to spirit, and I had researched far and long about this whole concept of a greater being or greater beings. And I found some really old documentation written in the Wolastoq language. And the word creator or God or great spirit was not there. That concept of a God or a great spirit was not in our language. But what I found was the word K'chiniweskwaq, which derives from the word Niweskwaq, which means she is spiritual. And the word K'chiniweskwaq is that great spiritual feminine. And that was at the beginning. And the word, I know miigam'agan get kind of, especially the Catholic miigam'agan get really scared when I say this word, but K'chimundo. That does not mean the devil. K'chimundo means that great mystery masculine. And that word mundo derives from the word mundo huhiga, which means he floats off or adrifts off, meaning they're like out in spirit somewhere. So that great mystery masculine is K'chimundo, and the great mystery feminine is K'chiniweskwaq. So when I pray in gratitude every morning and every evening, I always address those two great mysteries, K'chiniweskwaq, the great mystery feminine, and K'chimundo, that great mystery masculine. And within our creation story, at the beginning, they're the ones who created life. And correct me if I'm wrong, it really takes two to tango. You know, my mom and dad made me, not a God or a man just didn't make me. So these two great mystery beings were the two seeds that created life. And they're the ones who lowered the sky woman down on the turtle's back here. That's part of our beautiful creation story. So I thought I'd share those teachings about our language. I'm a studier of our language, and I just love our language. When I start to get so deep into the core part of the words, then I dissect the word to find out the real meaning of our words. So what I want to do now is talk a little bit about wampum. So this is wampum. It's from the quahog shell and wapup, we say that. And this is a very clear white wampum that was gifted to me by Gisitanomog quite a few years back. And he had instructed me when I use this, that when I speak, that I always speak the truth. So when I hold this wampum, when I'm in circle or when I'm in ceremony form or even speaking with government, I use this wampum to hold to speak the truth. This wampum was created by the Abenaki. When we had our Wabanaki Confederacy in Vermont approximately 5 or 6 years ago, they had created this wampum to gift the Wabanaki bundle. And this is an old style wampum belt. This square represents one which in our language is the Longhouse. And these 5 stars here are the 5 nations: the Miigam'agan, the Wolastoq, the Passamaquoddy, the Penobscot, and the Wabanaki. And the pipe represents the balance between the feminine and masculine. And when you put that pipe together, that creates life. So this is the pipe of peace and friendship amongst the five nations within that longhouse. So this was created by the Wabanaki, and they gifted our confederacy with this beautiful belt. Now they also gifted us, the Wabanaki Confederacy, this belt. This is a wider belt and a much longer belt. This consists of the two confederacies, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, which is on this side, and this side is the Wabanaki Confederacy. As you see, that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the Wabanaki nations, under our longhouse. And here, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of their confederacy nations. And in the center is the Wabanaki longhouse and their pipe that brought both of our confederacies together. This is the first time that the Haudenosaunee and the Wabanaki Confederacy had joined together in union in over 250 years. And that was a very powerful time, that when we had that confederacy. And at the ends, the reason that they leave the ends open like this in all the wampum is that they can continue the wampum, to like put more wampum to continue the connection between us. So I thought I would share some of the wampum teachings that was passed down to me, and we need to get back to our traditional wampum laws through the Wabanaki Confederacy, and we have to, especially in miigam'agan, I really urge the women there to lift a grand chief through the traditional ways, and you as the grandmothers need to get together and put that longhouse back together, because we need to join that confederacy once again.
Thank you so much, Ron, for sharing that. So beautiful. I love those wampum teachings so much. I know we've gotten a lot in my family too from my just one of my aunties in Elsie Bookdook, but Serena Francis has taught us a lot about that too. It's amazing. But I love them. And one of the things I loved about them too, we talk about those traditional contracts, because that's what they are. They're contracts, right? They're agreements. And they're like those tripartite agreements, right? They're between the peoples, between two different groups of peoples or different nations, but they're also with spirit. And I think that's a lot like what a lot of our laws and stuff now are missing, and people kind of miss that teaching in there too, that it's, it involves spirit. And I love that when you spoke about those the divine, like the feminine and the masculine, because I always learned, the way I always understood our teachings too is that greater power, when we talk about it, is really love, and if you want to manifest that as a being and call him creator or God or whatever, but there is always this energy that connects us as human beings, that connects us to the land, to the water, and to all the other things that we learn from. And it's love. That is that higher power. To me, at least, that's how I feel and how I understand it and how it makes sense in my life. So yeah, thank you so much. I love listening to your teachings too. I could listen to any of you guys talk all night. Unfortunately, we only have the 2 hours, so we're gonna do a little bit more of like popcorn style conversation now. So if any of you other grandmothers have things to add or comment on, or anything that's just sort of speaking to you, your heart saying you got to share to this group, please do. If anyone has any specific questions, you can type them in the chat, and then maybe after people have talked a little bit, we can check those out if we have time. But yeah, just gonna invite whoever of my my aunties and my mom to speak if there's anything speaking to them.
Yeah, what Ron was talking about, I just wanted to add, like in our language, when we talk about the wampum belts and treaty, in our language in Mi'kmaq, we call treaty unpacking. And it means, that's exactly what it means. It means the peace. When we say it to each other, Willie Unkuanich, it means let us have peace. So those treaties, when they named them, when they called them Uncle Gunkanway, they were always about peace and caring and togetherness and working together. That's all I want to share. Thanks.
Hi, everyone. I know, I think you guys can hear me. I'm not quite sure.
Yep, you're good.
Okay, great. I just wanted to talk about the importance of recording and documenting our elders and everything. And that's what I was in the process of doing, is going to the Elders Center. And I figured, I'm 55 now. I'm able to go to the door now and be respectful about it and say, I think we need to share some of these stories. And so I said, and try to get there. But then, COVID just threw everything off the tracks of everything. But I'm still determined that I will get the elders together to be able to come, because I purchased all this equipment, this recording equipment, and I'm working with the school also. And because I feel like, they have so much value that needs to be shared. And reconnecting the youth and the elders together, I feel like that's even very, very important. Like it's like one of the highlight right now that I like to try to really address in my community, is there's sort of like and I may offend somebody out there yet, but I'm going to say it anyways, that there's a disrespect, not only from the youth to the elders, but sometimes from the elders to the youth. So I want to sort of reconnect those little bridges that seem to be on over troubled water, So, but I feel like if we can get some storytelling going, engaging them together, and they may have learn from each other. So I just wanted to put that out there and just say that I with the documented and the recording, I'd love to do it, even if I sit there like Oprah style or something, just to get them, just to get connections of something, little stories. And because I remember growing up in Miigam'agan with my grandmother, and my grandparents were Uncle Charlie and Sugi's Anime. Everyone, that's all I called him. Everyone called him Uncle Charlie, Sugi's Anime, Bernard. So we grew up in the cabin all summers, and it would be like Monday to Friday during the summer, and 1 week would be the boys and the other week would be the girls. And that's how my grandparent had us. And if something happened in the family, then we'd all be there. Everyone take their kids there if there was a family emergency or something. And I remember the stories that we would be there listening and, around the fire and everything, and learning our prayers and quilting and hearing doing all kinds of stuff. We even did archaeology in there one time ago in the backyard. We were digging out like old plates and everything. It was interesting. It was fun. And I'd like to see something like that happen again, even if it's like a camp or something, for everyone to get away. But this is all post-term of COVID. The other thing I wanted to mention right quick is language. And right now I'm working on a transparent language app this is with Nashua, New Hampshire, and they're called 7,000 Languages. And we're halfway through that program now of development. So we're at like unit 5 and lesson 5, and we got quite a bit of stuff, and we have all youth that are doing the actual recordings, and we, of course, we're getting advice from the elders. But I just wanted to put that out there. And I was talking with Mary Amatelic, and I asked her if she wanted to be a part of that also, that we could put the Stiglisha dialect into that transparent language app. So we're hoping to have this done in the fall. So, and like I said, sharing the language, and I think that'll be great if we can get the kids to use this app, and even adults. There's a lot of adults that don't speak the language also. I didn't speak the language myself until I moved here 33 years ago, is when I started speaking Mi'kmaq here. So I just wanted to say that. Thanks.
Mig or Janie, Cathy, any thoughts that are rumbling around?
I just wanted to, when I started to share, I wanted to open it up with us to rethink about our language. And one of the things that's being vastly awakening in our communities is the reintroduction of our language. And so a lot of us, we've been focused on decolonizing and indigenizing, reheating our language. And so just briefly, like what happened over in the colonization process of our ancestors is that what the thinking that came did not regard the voice of women. And so when they arrived, the exchange of communication and the language that was captured was sifted through a colonial lens, which means that the woman was left out of that whole understanding. And so when we relook at our languages that has been demonized and so on, we're realizing that these words were describing, because we understand our language is multidimensional and there's no derogatory words, and that the language we understood to be our mother tongue. And so, and what does that mean? Like, these are areas that we really need to revisit about, that Ron and Jane touched on, and now our speaker about the value of relearning and reconnecting to the language. So we started to, in looking at that, and what was left out, and even the interpretations now that's been recorded through dictionaries and so on was sifted through the Christian thinking, so on. So the colonialness of it. So the creation story, how the woman was left out of that, is that we only hear now about Gluska. I keep wanting to speak in our language. We're not hearing no longer Malsum, and now Malsum is not even part of that creation story, and they were looked at as the twins in some of the stories, Malsum, Gluskap, and how they were born. And so Gluskap was the good twin, and Malsum was the jealous one, or Malsum was the wolf or the canine that helped Gluskap transform the earth and recreate the change, the evolution. But so when we look at Gluskap and Malsum, these are our creation stories and how life transformed and evolved. And so the rites of passage that Alma and Jane and Ron talked about the stages of life, and that partnerships the feminine and the masculine. So we know that the rites of passage, that most important time of when you're 6, and Alma talked about the 7. So 6 in our language is like we talk about asogum. So asogum is like that consciousness. Your asogum is you're coming into that subconscious state, or like the Alma said about 7. Anyway, so those are all in our language, in our numbers. So coming back quickly to the partnership of Gluskap and Malsum is describing the feminine and the masculine. Gluskap is the time when a young boy is coming into manhood. Glusuwahan, the throat, is what matures. So the male receives the gift of voice, the gift of voice to speak the truth from the heart. So Malsum talks about the feminine, because the root word for mal is mal, the blood, the moon blood. Asum is our breast milk that we like some. And so when you look at the root word, that's also describing the extended families of the aunties, and Sugwis, the one who breastfeeds, or the one who we breastfeed from. So that creation story is so important to really look at that, because we understand that every civilization has a creation story. Those are the foundational pieces of our belief systems and how we are as a people, values and all that. So when you look at the language and how the woman was left out of that equation, all of a sudden everything becomes male oriented, and the place of women was that's how our systems get colonized, is to displace women. And it's been done to on the other side of our sacred mother in Europe. The women were displaced, and they were they debated the same way that the Native people were put through that debate, whether they had souls or not. And that's how European women and women on the other side of our sacred mother was treated like that. So even like when we talk about Niskam, is talking about Nichan.
Can I see that
So
song?
when we say Nichan, we're talking about our eggs.
Remember that song?
Yeah, we're going to sing that song in a minute. We have a song we need to sing. So, I'm just putting this, plugging this in, because I think this is where we start to open that research questions, and and look at everything else about our language. So I just wanted to mindful about the time, putting that out there. Thanks, Ish.
I thought you were going to sing us a song, Mig. Is that Coral there? You want to sing us a song, Coral?
I think this is our nighttime bedtime song. So.
So wondering.
I'd just like to share a little bit about our language, W'list'kwe, Wagan. Our word for home is wigwam, and our word for mother is wigawis. So right there in our language, it shows who is the head of our homes and our lodges is the woman. If I say nig, it means my house. If I say nigawis, it means my mother. So it really connects to the feminine. The home is a feminine, and this is where, and then the womb is nigok, like it's where you nest. That describes that where you nest. So it really describes in detail how our whole language and the identity of who we are reflects on the mother. It goes through the maternal side of who we are. Lehman.
Mig, are you two gonna sing?
Coral, do you want to sing?
I could drum with you.
No,
No.
you don't want to sing? This
You
woman
sing?
knows what she wants.
How about if I sing you a little lullaby that my son loved?
Oh, good idea.
It's called apparently a Willistuk a Maliseet lullaby. I don't know, but it works. Naji, naji, nagagina, gagina, jiwane. Away, away, gina, jiwane. Away, gina, jiwane. Away, away, gina, jiwane. Naji, naji, nagagina, gagina, jiwane. Away, away, gina, jiwane. Away, gina, jiwane. Away, away, gina, jiwane. Naji, naji, nagagina, gagina, jiwane. Away, away, gina, jiwane. Away, gina, jiwane. Away, away, gina, jiwane. She left.
You went to sleep.
She's gonna be something. She's been hanging around with us before she came out of the womb. She was with us. Yeah. So a lot of the children have been with us since they were, born. It's been wonderful to have them around us all the time.
So again, I think that's one of the things that I think gets lost a lot in translation when we talk about things moving from our traditional teachings into colonized and modern day stuff, is how much those kids really mean, how knowledgeable they are, that they when the way I learn things, is that in those first 7 years and those last 7 years on earth, you're the closest to creator. That door to the spirit world is easily opened in those times in your life. And so I think like a lot of times our children are underappreciated, for their knowledge and their wisdom and their connection to spirit. Because like when Alma was talking about that intergenerational trauma, we also have, like she said, we also have intergenerational knowledge, and one of the teachings that I carry that's really dear to me is that our knowledge isn't gone. It's not lost forever. We can find it, we can find it through spirit. We can find it through ceremony. We can find it through prayers and vision and fasting and all of the tools we have to find it again, and when we talk about the language, I don't really speak a lot of our language. I know a little bit, but I also know, and especially from me and from my mom, I've learned a lot, and even what Ron shared today, I didn't know much of, but it's amazing that language is really the key to our knowledge. The more we learn about our language and learn where we come from and learn the roots of those words, like Ron said, he does the work, he puts in the work and figures out where stuff comes from, it pulls it all together. That knowledge is ingrained in us, ingrained in our spirits, it's in our blood, and it's in our language. So I think, it's so awesome and so powerful, and I love listening to these people talk. And it just always resonates with me. It's so strong. So thank you guys for all of that too. And someone in the chat had mentioned that asking about the matriarchal systems, and with clan mothers, they asked, like, is there clan mothers? Do any of you guys want to talk specifically about that?
About what?
About clan mothers and the clan mother system?
Wasn't listening. Okay. I just want to add a little bit to what Ron and you're talking about. Is and Alma, I'm just amazed of the memory part. I love that, Alma, because I was just talking to Ed Purley and Albert Marshall yesterday on another podcast on oceans, and Ed was wonderful, and he spoke about the memory. The water has the memory since the beginning, and that the turtle, one of the most ancient beings and lives very long, has memory and has carried that memory from time immemorial till now. Anyway, I just was reminded of that. And I often say that air and water are really the only two things we should be fighting for everybody right now, because it's important, because that's what most of us are made of. I mean, most of the human being is made of that. But I don't know, just from listening to everybody and playing my drum and learning stuff, I often talk about the fact that when I drum, I'm bringing us back into our mother's womb, but I'm also going back to my very first grandmother. And if you just take a moment and think about your very first grandmother, and that you still carry that sacred water because you're made up of it. And I just think that's profound, as Ron and Gisatanemuk would say, it's just profound. So thanks for sharing all of that. It's been like, I feel like we're spoiled and we're kind of getting away with something, that we're actually sitting here just chatting again like we do all the time. And Wabanaki, Women of the First Light came about from many, many, many years of constantly getting together and doing ceremony and peace and friendship gatherings and going to conferences and realizing that we just loved coming together and eating and drinking tea and chatting. And then we said, we need to share this. And we need young women to get this information as fast as they can. And that's our role. And so it's been great to have, I'm not ending this, I'm just saying, it's been great to have Paulina keep us in line, because we need to be kept in line. And anyway, so that's what I was thinking about, that water and how it's connected to us and the heartbeat. Yeah, I'm done. Clan mothers, You're going to talk about clan mothers.
That's not what I was going to talk about. But
okay, you don't have to. You can do whatever you want.
What I just wanted to say was, when we When you talk about the Wabanaki, the confederacy, and we are neither really, we are not patriarchal and we are not matriarchal. We are matrilineal. What we really are is we are more egalitarian, where there is equity and equality between the men and women. That's all I wanted to share.
And I wanted to add to, continue to add, Jane, that, you know, it's difficult when we keep having to define ourselves through outside of our worldview. So English language is not doing justice to us, you know, and as Alma talked about, you know, Western scientists have to evolve and create new, like epigenetics and, you know, quantum, you know, quantum science and all that. That was in response to bringing the spirit into science. So, you know, and this has been a bit frustrating, you know, because we're still looking through the colonial lens as we begin to talk about ourselves, and it's impossible, just as impossible as what the elders said during the moose tanning hide during Fredericton. They said that we cannot teach the language outside of our culture because it's not fully giving us the environment to get to understand. So now, like when you say Bisqua Basi, you know, we were in a different setting and a different understanding. Today, if you say that, they're coming into different kind of dwellings, a dwelling that is not meant to connect energy into the earth, you know, and that it's not spiral or silical, or, you know, creating that vortex of energy. So there's a disconnect. So we're learning to come in, and the children are getting a visual of a different environment and using the language like that, but the spiritual element or the feminine element is not there for us to see and feel and make reference to. So anyway, I wanted to share a little bit about the language and this is coming truly to explain about the clan mothers or the grandmothers, and that all the names that are aligned with responding to the female body or the feminine life is something that it's not a role of responsibility. It's an understanding of that presence of that element of energy. She is like in the space of presence. So like Unkich, the creator. When we say Nuch, Nujiabohonwet, we're describing all if we go down to Unkalamuxis and Chiganam and Sis, you know, Niskamijinah, you know, when we start to go on that line of talking about the men, it's all describing their responsibility to the feminine. And when we talk about, so when I say Antus, my daughter, I'm making a reference that she is that she is the carrier of the lineage, the clan mother. Dus dodem, us is recognizing the feminine. So she is the holder. She is the being of the carrier of life. You know, like Jane said, that's matrilineal understanding. You know, when we go back into the Western thinking, when we talk about like absolutely like matriarchal is talking about in the Western sense, genderism or hierarchical genderism. and matrifocal. Like I feel like that we are matricultural, like we're matrifocal, matrilineal, you know, and I don't forget the other word, but anyway, these are the foundational pieces that are needed to create true egalitarian, and I don't like using academic terms, egalitarian systems to honoring, but it's just much more than a humanness. We don't, when we're speaking, we're not talking as human-centered, because when we say, there's no, it doesn't distinguish if we're human or animals or plant. And like we're talking from the very beginning, like the oneness, like that we belong, like Ron talked about, you know, Neek, he says Neek, that's how we say it too. But we understand ourselves as the egg. Alma talked about that 32,000 life forms in us. And you know, it's not just the outer world, but the inner world. So
Was it,
I get,
was the word you wanted matricultural?
yes, matricultural, thank you. And so the matriarchs, like, or Ankijina, Niskamijina, according to the mother in Eskasoni, the clan mother in Eskasoni, Sarah Denny, talked, shared this to her children about her, specifically to her son, who went around sharing all this, because he was the voice, you know, that he expressed himself in that way. So, I think it's just important to recognize that we have a clan system, and that we understand that the clan systems are maternal, matriarch, or, you know, feminine. And I love that. I wrote it down too, from the womb to the tomb. And, you know, that is so powerful. We are the keepers of the womb to the tomb. So, and all the teachings. Anyway. My cheeks, I can see them on the screen, they're all flushed. I get too excited here.
Same things happen to me. So good luck. I'm like, my face gets all red when I have to talk to you.
Yes. Yeah. And so when we just all the references, like, you know, they talked about the birch scroll, about the triangle and the stick person. The triangle is exactly what Ron described. Neeg is the feminine, and Neeg, all the eggs and the life force is held in that, and that is recognized as the miigam'agan, our clans, and that represents the woman. So she had that triangle holds all those nijing, all the eggs, miigam'agan, nijang, you know.
Thank you so much, Meeg. So we're just gonna kind of wrap up a little bit now. I love everything you guys share. And in terms of the clan mother system, you know, we talk about that a lot. And it's something, I mean, we could do a whole 2 hours on it, but really what it is, and we talk about, you know, focusing and acknowledging that we come from our mothers, our grandmothers, talking about that life water and really honoring that, you know, and even though some of the teachings may be lost along the way, or you don't have them all, you know, you see it in a practical sense in Indigenous families. You know, everybody has that grandmother or that auntie that everyone else in your family answers to. You know, that's the person you go to advice for. That's the person you're afraid to swear in front of. That's who's going to give you a whooping if you need it. Like, you know, we all have that, right? So, and they're loved. They're so loved and so honored and so respected. And so, you know, I love that. But yeah, so, oh, and Gail had said too, the other word from her daughter's theses from Amanda Myron, she said was matricentric, so that it's centered around that matriarchal stuff. So, and so anyway, I just wanted to thank all of my aunties and my mom again for being here, and Ron so much. I love listening to him too, and it's been so wonderful. We appreciate you. We love you guys so much. And Ish also wanted me to mention we are going to be doing a youth circle similar to this next month in I don't know if we actually secured a date, but we were talking around the end of February, and it's going to be me, Ryan Gould, who's also from my reserve, Hannah Martin, that's Cathy's niece, and Rosalie Labilois, who I also just love. She's also a member, or has gone to ceremony in Manitoba, where I've done a lot of ceremonies since I was a kid. So she's one of my ceremony sisters. I'm really excited for that group. But I'm gonna just kind of let it come out, or let everything go now. I'm gonna ask my mom to do a quick prayer, and then have Cathy sing us out. And so we leave here in a good way, full of love and gratitude, and just, you know, it's so beautiful to be able to share a space digitally, because it is so hard, you know, missing these circles and missing this connection. So thank you guys.
Excuse me, I saw Albert Marshall on here, and I kind of want to defer to him for a closing prayer because I love listening to his prayers. If he's on here, would he do the closing prayer? Please, Albert.
Walarin. Kuchino wahakino. Amiskara melwi walari radeji kulo hidepi inamuya. Walali melwi kitantel mawali. Walali melwi kitantel ya sidi elmi kiksida antikara. Goyi ina sokusina. Walali kitantel se ko kisikina muya. Walali kitantel kulo nago kisko kisikina muya. Era mulek melwi jigina muya naptese ko wolodi. Tachi kodi, wonta kodi. Orang sabo ono kap nemi judesne. Ah melu jeda mulai kap siu yang kui, siu gina mune. Orang mana praktik nagu iga ismah pida desne. Era mulai nega siu ya abona mune. Abona mune melu muna. Kada pun kada di jigi kini kemana? Oh kikawan dah seperti ini. Tante ujino dah mau lugu di nenu, mau ya abona maru di nenu, mau kisah seperti nenu. Ah mau ya mau ya sudah maru nenu. Ahmelu imauem ne daho kisi na muksi. Ahede o yabaja si ne buksi tante ro tingum ne. Ankijina aiga na rudi oi. Nanega mo ite si kiskri meski de wakta mai. Nanega mo kiga tet pa ma so tius ne. Nega mo kiksa na atik. Ankijina. Na kijina nega mo ksko tigo de mi. Nega mo pegi si do di ma jwa na seskamo. Nega mo kisi na mo adi. Akisi gona di mitwali. Akisko kini waji kisi do ta ho im nega mo kisi mer gok tamiri. Akisi mer gok maru di. Wala li okitantel ya si de mi oni ula ruswa angisa loni. Thank you very much.
How did we do, Albert?
Walal and Albert.
How did we do, Albert?
You know, unfortunately, I came on a little late. Thanks for my friend Stephanie from Ontario. She sent me that kit. And you know, if I had known, I would have been set out too. I've learned so much tonight. And you know what? I'm not I'm so concerned anymore. I was concerned for a long period of time that maybe our cultural language was dormant, not gone. But what I have heard tonight, it really opened my heart. My heart is happy because we are back. And let's keep this energy going, because you know what? We have this responsibility of ensuring that we prepare this next 7 generations to continue on what's been left to us here by our ancestors. Thank you.
Albert, we just love you.
Osi tuolaliek, glamuksis. Aha, paskirudli mo muy walolek. Uchitan terikpisin au chit lusuan. Lali.
Igo, igane, igo, igo, igane, igo, igane, akanudai. Igo, kanudai, hey, igo, igane, igo. Walalio. Yay, I love
Oh,
this one.
Walalia Cathy.
Woohoo.
Yeah, but we enjoy. Nige wena kayam.